taunt onto the protected Regraph, probably eyeing a Trick Room. And the Flame Orb gonna activate on Ursa Luna, gonna go ahead and burn it and activate the Guts ability, increasing its attack stat by 1.5. And it has a move called Facade, where if it's inflicted by a status condition, it increases in power. So Ursa Luna now prepared to take out all of Abhyu's team. Thunder is not going to have a good time touching it because of that Thunderbolt being not being able to affect that Ursa Luna. And then the Regraph is going to have a little bit of a harder time doing damage at all, even though with that Beats of Ruin ability in play, it's not really going to be doing a lot of damage with the Dazzling Gleam or that Hyper Voice. And now we're going to see a Terrestrialization come in. This might be from Abhyu. And I believe I saw from the screens for Regraph the Fairy, and it is going to be the Regraph going for the Terrestrialization, going into the Fairy type to hopefully avoid the Dark Pulse from that Chi-Yu, which could threaten a one-hit knockout because of that Dark Pulse. And that was going to be the move here. The Dark Pulse into the Regraph going to do minimal damage now thanks to that Terrestrialization. Does reveal a Life Orb. And Thunderous going for the Thunderbolt onto the Chi-Yu is going to do get into the yellow side of the hell. That's pretty good. And here is the Facade into the Thunderous. It is an easy one-hit knockout. Arnie off to a solid start here, and no flinches come out from his Ursa Luna here. And here is the Dazzling Gleam, not going to pick up the knockout on the Chi-Yu. Ursa Luna already showing why it's one of the more feared Pokemon in this new format. With that Facade combination with the Guts, and if it even has Terra Normal on its side, it does even more damage. But here is the Urshifu Rapid Strike, and with it comes that Unseen Fist ability, letting its physical attacks dodge protect completely. So with the rain up and that Mystic Water that it holds, its Surging Strikes or an Aqua Jet will threaten knockouts on all of Arnie's Pokemon from this rain. And we did see the Ursa Luna go for the taunt earlier, so you could still go for the taunt to make sure that Regraph doesn't get that Trick Room up, or just check for his Dazzling Gleam. But Chi-Yu might be the biggest thing that he might want to switch here, because you don't really want to lose it if you're going to try to take out that Regraph, but you also want to stall out that Bane. Ursa Luna also in the same predicament. You could see a Terrestrialization from either side, or we're just going to see him stay in no Terrestrialization. If there's a Heat Wave coming in, that might have been a critical hit on the Regraph. No, it is not. It's just sheer power that makes that Beats of Ruin. Here's the Surging Strikes into the Ursa Luna. That's a quick, two critical hits. Gonna take it out without a problem. And down goes Ursa Luna. Surging Strikes still proving to be one of the more feared moves in this new format. Her Regraph gonna finish on the Chi-Yu with a Hyper Voice. And that's gonna put Arnie down to his last two Pokemon. Rain's still up for I think another turn, so whoever Arnie has in the bag might still be prone to a Surging Strikes. Here comes Basculegion from Arnie. And he's also going to have that Enamorous Incarnate coming into his side. And here is an interesting aspect here, because Basculegion gets a move called Last Respects. And Last Respects gains 50 base power for every Pokemon that's fainted. So now, but Last Respects now at a base 150 power, Ghost type attack. And looking at Abhyu's team, Last Respects can pretty much dish out damage to every Pokemon on Abhyu's side. I had to wonder if Abhyu, yeah, he's just going to protect right here just to make sure he doesn't get caught out by that Last Respects or a Three-Time Storm from that Enamorous here. And there is the Last Respects going straight into the Urshifu slot. And the Enamorous just going to go for Earth Power. Let's see if it knocks out the Regraph. It survives on 7 HP. But does get the special defense drop. Trick Room goes up. So now this Urshifu might be in a little bit of an awkward spot with that Trick Room depending on how it's trained. Because it looks like it's trained for speed, and that Basculegion, you know, I guess you would have thought that it has the Swift Swim ability, which doubles its speed and rain, but this Basculegion here is actually Adaptability, which does double damage thanks to a Ghost, thanks to his main type attack bonuses. It's going to do double damage now. And Urshifu quick to retreat and goes into that Heatran, which I don't appreciate that Last Respects that might be going its way here. Here's the Dazzling Gleam from the Regraph once again. How much damage is this doing? A considerable amount to both Pokemon. Here comes the Spring Strike Storm. Gonna connect on both Pokemon. Takes out the Regraph, and that's very little damage to the Heatran. Thanks to that Assault Vest and a double resistance of Fire and Steel. Terrestrialization is down for Abhyu. And this Basculegion is going to go for another Last Respects. How much damage is this doing? Oh my goodness, it almost took it out and the rain is gone. And now we're down with Urshifu and Heatran, and now I'm starting to think that Trick Room might have backfired on Abhyu. Unless this Heatran's slow, I don't think that Trick Room was has been helping him, which is the crazy thing because Heatran's pretty slow against both these Pokemon. And Trick Room's still up 3 turns, so he has to play this very cautiously because if he did, I'm pretty sure if he gets out of Trick Room, he'll have a chance to win the game. But he needs to knock out this Bascu Legion, which does hold, which we do now know is holding that Choice Scarf item, which increases it by 1.5, which makes it faster than both Urshifu and the Heatran. Yeah, worried about that Enamorus though. That's Ringside Storm threatening to knock out on potentially both Pokemon if that Heatran were to survive, thanks to its immense double resistance and bulk that it has. You know, so steering at that Heatran, it's gonna go for an attack into that Bascu Legion. Here comes the Terrestrialization. This might be the Bascu Legion going to water, but it could also be an Enamorus to go. So it's gonna be the Enamorus gonna go ahead and Terrestrialize and go into that Ghost type. Hopefully to avoid a Flash Cannon from that Heatran as we saw on the screen. Don't want to take that Fairy weakness and granted because it sinks everywhere. Here's a Flash Cannon and it does go into the Bascu Legion. It's gonna go down to 50% health. There's the Surging Strikes as well. Is this gonna knock out the Enamorus? So one crisis was averted, which was the Spring Tide, so was the Terra Ghost on that Enamorus to avoid that Steel weakness, but didn't cover for that Surging Strike sadly. And now we know that both of Arnie's Pokemon are faster than all of Abhyu's Pokemon, and that last respect's gonna pick up the knockout on the Heatran, but how much damage is Surging Strike's gonna do to this Bascu Legion at very low at half health? Because this is the game right now. If Surging Strikes knocks out Bascu Legion and Abhyu wins the first game, there's the first one, gonna go ahead and do a good amount of damage. Here's the second hit. Oh, this might be close. This might be close between this Bascu Legion and the third hit, and it does take it out. Abhyu gonna go ahead and win game 1 off that Urshifu in the Trick Room to get the speed jump on Arnie. Wow. I just thought that Trick Room would have been bad for Abhyu right there, but it turns out both of Arnie's Pokemon are very fast, that Enamorus and the Bascu Legion, which is probably what ended up costing Arnie the game, having those faster Pokemon in that Trick Room. Because if you put it a little bit carefully with that Ursaluna, I think you would have been able to get into an end game where you're able to get into a position where Ursaluna can go ahead and go for that Terra Ghost, avoid the weakness to that Surging Strikes. But also, this Urshifu Rapid Strikes go ahead and showing that why it's one of the more feared Pokemon in this format, as I think it is the second most used Pokemon in this new regulation, with immense power in its crits, bypassing Protect, and loads of item options. Once again, we're going into game 2 here. On Abhyu's screen, we have Farigiraf, Thundurus, Heatran, Landorus, Amoonguss, and Urshifu Rapid Strike, with Arnie with the Enamorus, Bascu Legion, Hisuian Decidueye, Chi-Yu, Ursaluna, and Grimmsnarl. I have to wonder if Arnie's going to pull something off of his hat, because he does have a couple of tricks up his sleeve, but Trick Room, towards the end of the game, was the reason that Abhyu was able to win that first game in a very convincing way. Sure, it was able to not do so much damage to the Dazzling Gleam and Hyper Voice, but it did enough damage to get the chip on whatever he needed to do to get that Pokemon down. And that Heatran with that Assault Vest really taking a lot of damage away from that Enamorus. But who knows if it takes any super effective attacks from that Bascu Legion or that Hisuian Decidueye, because those are two very dangerous Pokemon it doesn't want to see. Or at least see before Terrestrialization. And as we're going to see here, it looks like Abhyu's going to go ahead and go for a different lead here, with the Thundurus and Heatran hovering over his screen. No, he's going to go ahead and reconsider. He doesn't have a lot of time left. He has 10 seconds. Looks like we're going to go back to something very familiar from 2013 and 2015. Looks like they're going to be the Thundurus and Landorus lead. With 2 seconds left, he does lock in his team just barely, and we are going to go ahead and get started with game number 2 here of round number 1 of this Gym Challenge Summer Series, with this unofficial tournament and Regulation D in full swing. And Arnie showing off his shiny Decidueye, shiny Rowlet, I just noticed in his profile. And besides that Rowlet, let's go ahead and start the game 2, and we're going to see the same lead from Arnie, the Chi-Yu, and the Ursaluna. Abhyu going for the Thundurus and Landorus lead. Something probably you could have expected almost a decade ago. That Intimidate going to go ahead and lower Ursaluna's attack stat, so it's going to lower its damage output, but without that Flame Orb, without that burn, it's not going to be doing it much damage anyway. And that Thunderous, once again, is probably just going for a Thunderbolt onto that Chi-Yu, which is not something he wants to do here. And we're already looking at Abhyu going for his Terrestrialization on the Landorus to get that strong Terra Blast flying. To make sure it gets this really powerful Terra Blast off of his flying type attacks, and it is going to be what he locks in with that Choice Scarf we saw on the screen. And that Choice Scarf is going to make it go faster and faster, so we're going to see how much damage it's able to do, because the Landorus is a pretty strong attacker, and the Chi-Yu not going to want to take any attacks from this very menacing Landorus here. Ursaluna going to protect us well. Go ahead and scout out for what Abhyu wanted to do, and also activate that Flame Orb should his opportunity be given. There's a Terra Blast into the protect for the Ursaluna, and the Thunderous' Thunderbolt goes straight into the Chi-Yu's protect. Flame Orb will activate, giving it the Guts ability, but then Intimidate may give it a reason to survive a hit with survive a Facade from either of these Pokemon. Landorus might be the more dangerous one to try to stay out here with because of that Choice Scarf. Now that you're locked into that Terra Blast flying, you have to really consider your options, because you need to know who can survive each attack. Because if your Pokemon does not end up surviving any hits in this same play against this Ursaluna, you might have a problem, because you really need to figure out that end game, because without Trick Room on your side, you're likely to get outside by Arnie's Pokemon. We're going to see the Chi-Yu switch out, but if Thunderous is going for Thunderbolt again into that slot, that's still a dangerous swap it because it's super effective. Oh, but Thunderous is going to switch out, really not going to want to take some advantage from that Chi-Yu anytime soon. There comes the Heatran, going to go ahead and come in for that slot. Terra Blast comes out from Landorus Therian and into the Ursaluna. How much damage will this do? Just half. And we do see the Facade into the Landorus. Is this enough with that Intimidate? It is not enough. Wow, not enough for the knockout. Lives on 12 HP. Ursaluna gonna go ahead and take a bit of burn damage there with that Flame Orb burn. And Amorous got in here a little safely to do, really safe. Something Abhyu didn't want to see. There's still a Terrestrialization option to avoid that Flash Cannon, get that super effective damage up. But once again, it's an Amorous. I mean, it does threaten to knock out on the Landorus with that Spring-type Storm that it has, but it's also not one of the more accurate moves in this metagame, because 80% accuracy is never always a good thing. And there's Ursaluna going to switch out. Doesn't want to lose it like we did the last game. Out comes the Basque Legion for that slot, so probably wants to go ahead and tank a hit from that Landorus. Going to go for that Terra Blast once again, and goes into the Basque Legion slot. How much damage would this do? Oh my goodness, almost a one-hit knockout. The Spring-type Storm going to go ahead and connect on both Pokemon. Gonna go knock out the Landorus, do very minimal damage to that Heatran. And the Terrestrialization falls for Abhyu. We're gonna see what Abhyu has in store in the back, as we're gonna see his Heatran go for the Flash Cannon into the Enamorous. How much damage? Not enough for a one-hit knockout. Oh, it would have been a knockout if it weren't for that Falcon Sash. I don't think people are experimenting too much with the Enamorous, thanks to how very frail it could be. Thunder is going to go ahead and swap back in. Basque Legion does threaten the knockout on both these Pokemon because of that Choice Scarf. But if it goes for something like that Wave Crash, it's going to be probably knocking itself out with that recoil damage. But if it takes something with it, that might be better in the long run. It's just depending on what this Enamorous wants to do. Blast Specs is not going to be enough damage. Aqua Jet can pick up a good amount of damage on the Heatran. Head Smash, probably one of your more riskier options to go for if you're Arnie. He needs to consider his options closely. Here's a Thunder Wave. Gonna go ahead and connect. It does have a chance to miss. Doesn't miss there, but there's the Basque Legion. Gonna go ahead and be paralyzed and lose half its speed. Gonna get half that speed back thanks to that Tailwind front end Enamorous. Will he get paralyzed though? He does go for the Wave Crash. Does go into the Heatran. It's gonna knock itself out and take out the Heatran with it. So Arnie now in the advantage state with that Chi-Yu and Ursaluna in the bag, and Abhyu only down to 2 Pokemon. Maybe going for Thunder Wave there wasn't exactly the play, but now you have re-swap into that Urge Rapid Strike. Chi-Yu gonna come in, and Arnie still has the Terrestrialization. He could go for the Terra Grass on a Chi-Yu and just avoid the weakness to the Surging Strikes. Although I don't know how much damage it'll take from a close combat at neutral. This looks like a very teleback play from Arnie's side, where he can just go ahead and go for that Terra Grass specialization and hope and just get much more leeway with that resistance to water now. And that's exactly what he's gonna do. Go ahead and terastallize that cheat into the grass type. I think I did see that Thunderous click Rain Dance so that he could get the rain up and boost 13 Strikes' power, but yeah, Chi not the type of Pokemon to tank hits. Oh no, not gonna be attacking anytime soon. Go for that detect. Make sure it doesn't faint to a Springtide Storm from Arnie, as he does have the speed advantage thanks to that Tailwind earlier. And Amorous does go for that Springtide Storm. Gonna go ahead first hit protect the Urshifu and miss the Thunderous. If you don't know, the Terra Blast goes into the protect, and that's probably telegraphing that he wants that Urshifu to go down. And for those of you that don't know, an Amorous' Springtide Storm is 80% accurate, and if all of you pay attention at home, if you do your research, all the storm moves from the genies, except for an Amorous for some reason, are able to hit for 100% accuracy into range like Hurricane. There's the Eerie Impulse. Now that the Dark type is gone, is able to use that Prankster to go ahead and weaken the power of that Chi-Yu, but that Springtide Storm not gonna matter because it's gonna go ahead and knock out that Urshifu anyway. There's the Terra Blast, but now it's going into a very resistant Thunderous with that Flying type and the -2 special attack it just took. Oh, that's still decent damage, and I think Arnie is able to secure the win and go into game 3, but different things have been able to happen. He needs to get something going, and there is the Chi-Yu gonna switch out back to that Ursaluna. And with that Ursaluna coming in, doesn't want to take another Thunderbolt, so that's pretty much, I think, game over, because if you're not able to touch that Ursaluna in the first place, I don't think you have much way to damage his team. That Ursaluna is able to hang on for a lot longer. The Springtide Storm is going to connect. There is no paralysis thanks to the Thunder Wave. It is going to go to game 3 as Arnie wins it in a very convincing way. So far, we've seen 2 different battles play out. We've seen a battle where, without the Varigoraph Trick Room, that Arnie was able to take that game with the speed control into his advantage, and Abhyu, with his expertise, needs to figure that out, because if you don't have the Trick Room, I don't think you'll have a good way to control the speed and make sure you have the advantage that you want. And as for Arnie, that Tailwind was pretty smart from him. If he knew that the Thunder Wave was going to come out and connect another Asco Legion, it does negate the Choice Scarf into an extent, and then the Tailwind gets it back up to speed. And yeah, you're just basically going down to a mind game where who will have the speed control, who will have the damage, and if you are able to move at all, to that paralysis. As we're going to go into game number 3 here, round number 1, already with exciting action. We're going to see once again from Abhyu's side, the Varigoraph, Thunderous, Heatran, Landorus, Amoonguss, and Urshifu. And for Arnie, we're going to see Enamorous, Basculegion, Hisuian Decidueye, Chi-Yu, Ursaluna, and Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl and Hisuian Decidueye have both been in the back foot for Arnie's side. Yeah, a lot of Abhyu's team does threaten both of them with his, his consistency with the Landorus and everything. Probably something you don't want to account for, because it's just so much that you need to consider from both sides. And Abhyu, pretty aware he needs to do something about that Basculegion and that Ursaluna, but also the Chi-Yu Chi-Yu's probably been pretty good showing this battle. One of the less prominent priorities thanks to everyone using Heatran in their teams, but Chi-Yu still has a good place in this meta game. It has good damage output, it can lower the special defense stats thanks to that Beats of Ruin ability, it has Terastallization, and it has various item options. We're going into game 3 right now as we switch the screen, and it's going to be Enamorous and Ursaluna this time for Arnie, and it's going to be Thunderous Urshifu for Abhyu. Enamorous in trouble here because of that Surging Strikes that Abhyu can obviously throw out, because that Surging Strikes does bypass the focus touch with the 3 hits that it provides, and we're already seeing Abhyu probably going for an aggressive move here. And it looks like, yeah, he's gonna go ahead and click that. Ursaluna gonna swap out. I wonder if this is for the Basculegion. It is the Basculegion gonna come in, so it is gonna take that Surging Strikes a bit better than Ursaluna will, because of that super effective damage. You do see the Terastallization come out from Abhyu, We're gonna still go ahead and see it. There it is. And it's gonna be the water type for that Urshifu. So now you are no longer weak to that spring type storm anytime soon. Maybe now it'll have a chance to live a fairy type attack. Thunder Wave gonna come out and goes into the Enamorus, does connect. Go ahead and half its speed and give it that paralysis. Keeping it maybe unable to move. There's a Surging Strikes coming out now. Mystic Water boosted, and now Terrestrialization comes into play here. The first hit doing an okay amount of damage. Yeah, it's gonna go ahead and survive his hit. Now it just comes down to whether or not this Enamorus is able to move, because if it doesn't move, this is a disastrous turn for Arnie. He is holding his hands up. The Spring Type Storm does connect on both Pokemon, and thanks to this Terrestrialization away from the fighting type, Urshifu is able to survive that attack pretty comfortably, and the Thundurus taking. Yeah, that Thundurus did take a good amount of damage there, but at least it was able to survive the hit. Basky Legion does threaten to knock out on both these Pokemon with something like that Wave Crash, or maybe even the Aqua Jet in some cases. And there's a Wave Crash going to come out with that Choice Scarf. Gonna go ahead and knock out this Thundurus pretty comfortably. Down goes the Thundurus. No more pranks or shenanigans with that Thunder Wave or Eerie Impulse going to happen anytime soon. Basky Legion goes down to the red, and the Enamorus doesn't get paralyzed again. And there's the Tailwind. So now Arnie has the speed control once again. Even with that Choice Scarf Landorus in the back for Abhyu, he's not going to get the speed advantage, as Wave Crash now is going to outspeed this Landorus and give it the power it needs thanks to that Wave Crash adaptability boost. And here it comes. The Landorus is going to go ahead and come in. The Intimidate can raise Enamorus' attack thanks to his contrary ability, but lower the attack stat of Basky Legion because it's not contrary. And yeah, we're already seeing this Landorus already wanting to switch up to a Moongus here to make sure it doesn't take any damage from that Wave Crash that's going to be incoming from this Basky Legion. This Urshifu really needs to consider what it has to do here, because if it goes for it, it's going to get outspeed by both of Abhyu's Pokemon, but Wave Crash might miss the knockout on it. And if you do outspeed this Enamorus, does Surging Strikes take the knockout? We're going to see the Landorus go ahead and swap out into the Moongus so he can make sure that Landorus comes in safely against something like that Wave Crash, and make sure it does in here without much problem. Here's the Aqua Jet. He probably realizes he's not going to get outspeed anytime soon. Aqua Jet does take a knockout on the Basky Legion, so he is going to take this down. The Landorus now a bit safer to come in now, because now you don't get the threat of that. Oh no, the Spring Type Storm does miss the Urshifu. It's going to connect down the Moongus. It's going to do very minimal damage, but because the fact that Basky Legion's gone, Landorus probably feels a little bit more safer. But now the new question becomes, can you stall out this Tailwind in time? Because now Arnie's running a lot of pressure with his Chi-Yu coming into play with that Beads of Ruin ability. And something like that Spring Type Storm now can pretty much, I mean, Spring Type Storm already threatens a knockout on Urshifu, but you really cannot switch in Landorus right now because of that Chi-Yu's power. The Paralysis has not come into play so far thanks to that Tailwind, and the Enamorus has just been able to shrug it off for the most part, not leaving it unable to be paralyzed. So we're going to see Abhyu lock in his moves. Arnie's going to have to consider his options, because if he knocks out this Chi-Yu, he's probably in the home stretch now. Urshifu is going to switch out into that Lander, so wants to see if he can get that Urshifu into the end game safely against something like that Ursaluna. But its Intimidation going to also raise an Enamorus attack again, even though both these Pokemon don't have any physical attacks, sadly. And Arnie going to go ahead and Terrestrialize what I think is going to be the Amoonguss once again. I mean, the Chi-Yu. And it is going to be the Chi-Yu going back into that Grass type. Doesn't want to get hit with the Spore. Doesn't. I mean, there's also Scout. Yeah, he doesn't want to get hit with the Spore. Just to make sure this Chi-Yu is able to survive another turn without any disruption. The Amoonguss is going to go ahead and go for the Protect right now. You go for the Heat Wave. This Landorus is not bulky because it is that Choice Scarf set, and here it comes into the Beads of Ruin. It lives on 25 HP. Go ahead and take some damage from that Life Orb, and there is the first Paralysis of 2023 Regulation D into the Enamorus. Probably looking for a Spring Type Storm to knock out the Landorus, and just missed the opportunity thanks to that Paralysis. And I think Arnie has one turn left to Tailwind, so probably one last chance for Enamorus to do something here. And well, you know, he's just gonna realize he needs Enamorus or that Urshifu later on. Gonna go ahead and go in, send in that Ursaluna. Has yet to get that Flame Orb set up. You go for another Heat Wave, and that is going to be a quick double knockout as it connects on the both Pokemon. Abhyu is just down to his Urshifu Rapid Strike. It's a 1v3 and all Urshifu can do is do single target attacks, and that Terra Grass. And I think also this Chiku does outspeed this Urshifu or Arnie, and if it does, then that Terra Blast Grass is gonna go ahead and be the end game, as this Urshifu is gonna go ahead and come into play. Probably not in the best of scenarios. Surging Strike's definitely knocks out the Ursaluna, but it does not knock out the Chi on this range. You have to find out if this Chi is going to go ahead and play it safe here, or go for that Terra Blast, which does secure the game for Arnie here. And one Blast of Grass is how Arnie gets the 2-1 victory in round number 1 of Gym Challenge Summer number 1. What a way to start Regulation D, ladies and gentlemen. Been having a lot of Urshifu, a lot of Generation 8 Pokemon from Pokemon Legends Arceus, and in to the winner circle goes Arnie for round number 1. Great effort by both of these trainers right now, and this is just the beginning of everything. Regulation D is going to be our new rule set heading into the Worlds format, and you just got a glimpse of what you could possibly see into that new rule set, as you probably saw that Ursaluna probably just go ahead and go for that Facade, even though it got intimidated, did a lot of damage at Landorus. You also saw that Vascular Legion could do a lot of damage with that Wave Crash, especially with that adaptability boost, and its bulk is pretty considerable, you don't want to underestimate it. But also that Adamerous, pretty high damaging, so a lot of things went into Arnie's favor, and he is a winner here for round number 1. Stick around for round number 2 coming up next. You don't want to miss it, as you're going to see a lot more new Pokemon, probably for the better or for the worse.